Oh. All right, welcome in. TMA's College Football 25 Online Dynasty. Week 10, Week 9. Saw some interesting games that really, I think, kind of threw a wrench into what we're going to see here in the top 25 rankings. We're getting ready to reveal the first college football playoff top 25 rankings for the playoffs. This isn't the media poll. This isn't the coaches poll. This is the college football playoff top 25 ranking. A lot of bearing on what we'll see here in a few weeks when the 12-team field's announced. The committee has their first projection out. We'll take a look at that after we see the top 25. Keep in mind, you're going to have the highest four-seeded conference champions getting a first-round bye in that 12-team tournament. And you fill out the field with 5 through 12. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of representation there is from the SEC, the ACC, Big 12 kind of having a down year. So let's take a look at the college football playoff top 25 ranking. We're going to go in descending order here, so I'm going to try to speed through these so you don't see them off the rip. So at 25, we've got a computer team in Maryland, 6-2 in the Big 10, 8th in the Big 10, not really a factor. In the Big 12, you got Arizona. I believe they're in a jumble of 3 or 4 teams that could win that conference. 6-2, 4-2 overall, another computer team. The first user-controlled team at 23, we've got Matt Rocchio's Tulane Green Wave, 6-2 overall, second in the American Conference at 4-0. At 22, we got the Trojans, the USC Trojans, out of the Big 10, fourth in the Big 10, 5-3 overall, 5-2 in the conference. Not really in the mix necessarily in the Big 10. Don't know that I see them being a playoff team here in a few weeks. At 21, the Knights out of Central Florida, computer team. Middle of the pack in the Big 12. At number 20, Nebraska off a tough loss on the road in Columbus. Still in the mix, I suppose, but I think that loss to Ohio State's really going to probably put a nail in the coffin of their playoff hopes. At 19, out of the Big 12, Iowa State. Second in the Big 12, not a user team, computer-controlled team. At 18, surprising, no one chose this team. But out of Happy Valley, we got the Penn State Nittany Lions, 9th in the Big 10. Not really going to be a factor, but somehow coming in at 18 in the CFP Top 25 rankings. Now we're going to get into a little run of some user-controlled teams. You got the Volunteers at 5-3, 10th in the SEC. But I guess that schedule, they still find themselves a top 20 team in these rankings. At 16, you got Coach Burkett's South Carolina Gamecocks on a bye week in Week 9 after a tough loss against the Sooners. Now they got a big one coming up against A&M. Still an outside chance, 6th in the SEC, but they're probably going to have to run the table. Going to have to run the table to have a chance. But when you got a weapon like Nick Harbor, I suppose anything's possible. At 15, Ohio State. Big win at home against Nebraska. They're up to 15 in the polls. At 14, my pick, like I said, kind of the darling of this first season. Undefeated, first in the American Conference, the Memphis Tigers. And they're going to have a matchup with Dan Marshall, Joe Roderick, and the UT San Antonio Roadrunners coming up soon. At 13, you got the Utah Utes, computer team. We'll skip over them in the Big 12. Same with Washington in the Big 10, another computer team. Wisconsin, their first loss of the year against Penn State, dropped them to 4-1 in conference, second in the Big 10. They're in the mix, but another team that may have to win out. Definitely going to have to win the Big 10 to have a chance. Then we get into the top 10, and we're going to see a lot of user-controlled teams here, which you love to see. At number 10, tough loss by the Sooners on the road at Ole Miss. Dropped them to 6-2, 3-2 in the SEC, but they find themselves in the top 10 of the CFP rankings. At number 9, you got Clemson, another two-loss team, 4-1, second place in the ACC. It's really Miami and then everybody else when it comes to the ACC. But if you're Clemson, you still got a lot to play for. You're ranked 9th. Decent schedule going forward. So, but another team that may need to win out to have a chance. Texas A&M, this one hurt. I thought Texas A&M was going to have a chance to run the table in the SEC. I thought they were on a collision course with Georgia. But then they drop a tough one at home to LSU, 30-21. They're now third in the SEC. Again, going to have to win out, hope for some help to have a chance. But A&M, number 8. At number 7, Ole Miss. Big win at home against the Sooners, 43-42. A 4-loss team. But the committee has them 7th in the CFP Top 25. Interesting. At number 6... you got the LSU Tigers. Big win, like we said, on the road in College Station. They're 6-2, 2-2, 7th in the SEC, but 6th in the CFP Top 25. Interesting. Another interesting play by the committee. Now we're in our top 5. You got Notre Dame, obviously independent, no conference affiliation there, but they're 6-2 overall. Decent schedule for them going forward. Not going to have a chance for a bye without being able to be a conference champion. But if they win out, they're more than likely to host a game in South Bend in the CFP. At number 4, the leaders in the Big 10, you got the Michigan Wolverines, 7-1. And this is where I think, you gotta wonder what the committee was seeing in some of this. At third, you've got the Bulldogs out of Georgia, undefeated. 7-0, 5-0 in the SEC, but the committee put them at 3. At 2, another undefeated team, Miami, 9-0 overall, 5-0 in the ACC, running away with it. And the committee put them at 2. And that means that atop the CFP Top 25 rankings, in the first rankings of the season, you got Danny Packer's Alabama Crimson Tide, 7-1. Big win at home, just absolutely shit-canned Missouri, which then led to the shit-canning of Coach Doug Vaughn in Columbia. You don't like to see anybody lose their job, but I think everybody would kind of agree that Coach Vaughn had it coming, and Danny Packer's Crimson Tide kind of were the finishing touch on a real disappointing season for Coach Vaughn. So Alabama, even though they got the one loss, the committee has them at number 1 in the CFP Top 25. which means we got to take a look at the projections that the committee's put together. Now, granted, keep in mind, before we pull this up, it really means nothing. A lot of football still left to be played, a lot of conference champions to be decided. But this is what the committee has in their first projections. In the first round, at the top, out of the Sun Belt, the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. The committee's got them winning the Sun Belt, squeaking in at number 12, which means they would go to Tuscaloosa to play who the committee has as number 1, but perhaps the committee doesn't see them winning the SEC championship because they got Georgia getting the bye in the first round, Alabama ranked 5th, hosting a playoff game against Louisiana. Then you got Texas A&M. We talked about their first loss of the season. The committee's got them at 9, going on the road, on the Grove, to play Ole Miss in an SEC matchup. That's a good one at the 8-9 game. In the bottom half, you got the Sooners, another SEC team, coming in at the 11 spot, going on the road to South Bend to face the Fighting Irish in Notre Dame. A lot of name recognition in that game with Oklahoma and Notre Dame. I haven't seen either of those two teams play. That's an interesting matchup. And then at the bottom, at number 10, Clemson Tigers. Out of the ACC, number 7, LSU Tigers. Battle of the Tigers in that one at the 10-7 game. That game would be in Baton Rouge if the season ended today. Looking at the next round, in the quarterfinals, the team that the committee sees, I guess, winning their conferences and getting the byes, you've got Miami winning the ACC, getting the 1 spot. They'll play the winner of Ole Miss, Texas A&M. That would be in the, what is that? The Cotton Bowl, perhaps? I'm not sure. I can't see. You got, at number 2, the Bulldogs. The committee sees them winning the SEC, getting the first round bye, playing the winner of LSU and Clemson in the Sugar Bowl. Interesting, if LSU were to get by Clemson, technically they'd be the road team in that matchup against Georgia. Essentially a home game there in New Orleans at the Sugar Bowl. Number 3, the projected Big Ten champions, the Michigan Wolverines, hosting the winner of Oklahoma, Notre Dame. Again, regardless of who comes out of that game, you're going to have either Michigan, Oklahoma, or Michigan, Notre Dame at the Rose Bowl. Are you kidding me? And then at the top, number 4, winning their conference, Memphis Tigers. They're a wagon. I've been saying it for weeks now. The committee's got them at number 4, and they would play in the Peach Bowl against the winner of Alabama, Louisiana. Got to think that would be Alabama, which would mean you'd see Danny Packer and his Crimson Tide against Memphis and that offense. Whew. That would be interesting. Yeah, a lot of interesting things here by the committee. Who got snubbed? Who's on the outside looking in? Who's at 13, 14, 15? These projected conference champions. Did the committee get those right? I think Miami they got right. Georgia, yeah, I don't know how you could bet against Georgia. They've proven it every game they've gone out there. I would agree with Michigan winning the Big Ten. And then, yeah, Memphis is going to win their conference, probably be undefeated. I think they got to be 4. I think the committee got those ones right. Notre Dame, soft schedule. But if they go 10-2, they're in. So I think the committee got that one right. LSU, big win against A&M. They got them at 7. I don't hate it. Ole Miss and A&M. I've seen A&M play. Can't argue with that. I haven't seen Ole Miss. A lot of SEC representation. Clemson at 10. Yeah. Oklahoma, I don't know about. Haven't seen them play. And then I guess the Raging Cajuns getting in at 12. All right. So that's the look. That's our first way too early look at the CFP Top 25. The projections in the 12-team bracket. Lots going to change, though. A lot will change even after this week. Games got to be in by Thursday night, so this won't look the same come Friday morning. But it is kind of interesting to see what the committee was thinking from the games they've seen so far. So, all right, we'll see how it plays out after Week 10. This has been the TMA College Football 25. Way too early look at the playoff